everyone. This is Admin KJ, and today we are here to talk with John Gilstrap about his newest book, Lethal Game. Lethal Game is the newest thriller from the New York Times bestselling author and USA Today bestselling author, John Gilstrap. As I mentioned, readers will be taken from Montana to Mexico as Jonathan Grave and his team are tracked with a vengeance. So here we go. And John Gilstrap is the author of several award-winning action novels. He is also a former firefighter and EMT, as well as a nationally recognized weaponry and explosive safety expert. So please help me welcome our special guest. Hi, John. How are you doing today?
I am well, thanks. Glad to be here.
Yeah, so glad for you to be able to join us today. So as I kind of gave a little brief synopsis of Lethal Game, but can you tell us a little bit more about the book as well as the series as a whole for any readers who are new to Jonathan Grave?
Well, the series itself, the Jonathan Grave series, he is a freelance hostage rescue specialist. That's Jonathan's specialty. He's he's a former Special Forces operator, Delta Force operator, who left the Army after 17 years, and he started a security company called Security Solutions. And he's the guy you call if you want to have your loved ones taken away from the bad guys and reunited with the family, and you don't really care a whole lot about what happens to the bad guys. We're not talking about warrants and knocking at the door, right? He's an action-oriented guy. And Jonathan, the Lethal Game is the 14th book in the series. And they're all standalone. I don't know what the right word is. I know it's a series because I signed the contracts and that's what it says, but they're not, it's more episodic. It's not like the story, there's a continuing story. But anyway, in this one, Jonathan is on a hunting trip. He's hunting elk out in Montana. And he's stopped by a forest ranger, a game ranger, and it asked to show his license and that sort of stuff. And then boom, the ranger gets shot from far away, and it becomes apparent very quickly that that was a miss, that they were shooting after Jonathan instead of at the ranger. And then he finds out that his entire team, his support staff that's in Fisherman's Cove, Virginia, a bucolic fictional town on the northern neck of the Potomac River, they are all also in danger. So the idea is to figure out why and how to stop it.
Oh. So you mentioned that you would say it's more episodic. So is any new readers, they can just jump in straight into the new book?
Yes, I work very hard to make sure that every book is a standalone. There are Easter eggs for readers who have been with me all along, but I make sure that nobody gets lost if number 14 is the first one that they're reading.
Gotcha. And as we mentioned, it's like we said, it's the 14th book. What do you love most about writing a series? And then also, how has your writing changed over the years? Because you've had several books. So what would you say you've learned from the series?
Well, writing a series is a little like, wearing comfortable shoes. It's over time, I become very comfortable with the characters and I get to know them more and more. And, it's from my perspective, writing a book is a little like going to that place in your head and you play with your imaginary friends. They call it psychosis if you don't get paid for it. And, so, how has my writing changed? I really don't know because I don't actually go back and read my old books. I sort of write them and move on. So I'm going to guess that I would like to think that I've gotten better and maybe my sentences are shorter. I know since I've been with Kensington that I use far fewer adverbs because my editor hates adverbs. So that's one thing.
Nice. Okay. We do have some reader questions coming in. So and one of them actually kind of goes off of some of the questions I have. So that's perfect. It's about when you're not reading for research, what are some of your favorite recent reads?
I have recently discovered, right, the guy's been writing for 1,000 years. I've recently discovered Erik Larson and, Devil in the White City and right now I'm reading The Garden of Beasts, which is about
Mhm.
1936, 38 Germany.
Mhm.
Uh, I was a history major in undergraduate school, and I've always kind of had a thing for history. I don't really read a lot of fiction, to be honest with you. I occasionally, but between the research that I do and just the exercise, educating myself, I probably do 2 for 1 nonfiction to fiction. And
Oh,
Eric Larson is my current obsession.
yeah, I haven't had a chance to read any of his books, but I do remember The Devil in the White City. And then I know he recently had, or I say recent, but the one about Winston Churchill. I remember hearing about that. So,
The Splendid and the Vile,
yes, that's the
which is
title. I was like,
really good.
it's good. Okay, I'll have to check that out because I want to read The Devil in the White City, but I'm also like kind of a scaredy cat when it comes to reading. So I'm like,
Well,
I know
that's a disgusting. I mean, it's a wonderful book, but
yeah,
it's scary.
that's what I was like. I'm like, I have to be ready to do it. So, and another reader wants to know, how long does it take you to complete writing a book?
Well, there's writing and then there's writing. Okay, so
Mhm.
I owe a book, a Jonathan Gray book, every year. Every October 15th, I submit the manuscript. So, but I don't write every day, to be honest with you. I tell myself that thinking about writing is writing, all that researchy kind of stuff. But once I actually get down and start hammering out the manuscript, it's about 4 months, 3 or 4 months.
That's
And
fair.
I'm the book I'm writing now. It's called Harm's Way, which is the 15th Grave book. I'm
Mhm.
just due on October 15th, and I'm just now about 25, 30 pages into it and hitting it really hard, which means I'm going to go crazy, be face on fire, nuts in early October. But somehow that's how my ethic works.
Yeah, that's you got some time. You're good. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
oh, no problem.
yeah, you're good. No, that's exciting. And then, so what would you say is your research process like? And then, do you have any go-to people when you're researching for the novels that to ask questions or anything like that?
Well, a lot of yes and no. A lot of my life, just building up to now, I've been in the weapons business. I'm an explosives guy. I'm a weapons guy, firefighter, which means I know a lot of cops and I know a lot of agents and law enforcement people at various levels. So I guess it's research when I pick up the phone and I call a buddy and I say, hey, listen, how does this work? Or can I have a tour of, or can you take me along on what you're doing? And they say, yes. I never think of it as research as much as I think of it as going out and having a good time. I write about the stuff that excites me and engages me.
Yeah.
If I get to something like the real research, like places and flowers, no, I don't write about flowers, but if I get in things that I really don't understand, it'll be a quick Google search and I will learn as much about it as I need to know and nothing more. Because if it's something I really enjoy, then I'll drink it out of a fire hose. But the rest of it, the idea is to create the image for the reader,
Yeah.
and then move on.
Oh, nice. Well, it's really cool that you have people to go to for things like that, and that it's more of a like a learning experience, like a fun learning experience for you and everything like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
That's really cool. Nice. And then, so in this novel, there's multiple locations, and you mentioned about like during your research, like, do you ever travel for your research?
Occasionally, I mean, if the IRS is out there, yes, absolutely, I have traveled for my research. Um, I've been blessed. I'm a 50 stater, so I have spent significant time in all 50 states. So if I have been to Montana, which is where the Lethal Game opens. Um, so yes, I've been to every place to get the feel and the sense of the place. But I don't write about real places. I mean, Montana is real, but the towns within the story are not. So that takes a lot of pressure off of me.
Of it. Yeah, that's a good point. I think that would be my favorite thing about being a writer is like like, oh, I can just travel. I mean, I know it's not just traveling, but you get to explore a lot of cool places, and that's very impressive. To like 50 states, I would dream of doing that. I love, like, I do love traveling. So maybe one day, but I haven't been to Montana yet. So it's on my
Oh, got to
list.
put that at the top of the list. That whole
I know.
area, that I guess it's the Midwest, West. I'm not sure where it's
I
located,
think
but
West.
that and Utah and Idaho and the Dakotas. It's just gorgeous, gorgeous country out
Yeah.
there.
I've spent some time in Utah, and I have to keep myself from wanting to keep going back. I'm like, oh, there's other places to go and see. So I think if I love Utah as much, then I should go to Montana. We have a reader question they want to know, what is the book on the top of your to be read pile?
The book on the top of my to be read pile. I have a library in my house that has a ton of books that I haven't read yet. So I
Mm-hmm.
don't know. It's right now. Again, the book I'm reading is a long book, so it's going to be a week or two before I finish with that, and then I go to the
Mm-hmm.
shelf and decide what's next.
That's very impressive. I'm always like, oh, there's so much pressure when it comes to me choosing a next book. I'm always like, it's like, am I in the mood for it? Or like, I've tried to make a list, but I don't always stick to the list. Nice. So I'm always curious, and this is something I'm always like, I want to know, are any characters in your book influenced by people you know in real life?
I think they have to be. It's not so much on the nose as I'm going to write about Gary, or I'm going to write about George,
Yeah.
but between all of these different wonderful experiences and meeting, I don't know how many tens of thousands of people I've conversed with over the years, but there are some really dynamic folks that I
Mhm.
meet, and they're quirky and they're fun. So it's not so much about copying a character as it is copying the quirks, or
Yeah.
that kind of twisty, odd point of view on things, and
Yeah.
then filtering it through myself, and but it's never an intentional effort to try to base a character off of another person.
Yeah. Okay. That's so cool. I'm always wondering, like, what quirks and like habits people pick out, like what you pick out, and you're like, oh, that's perfect for this character and things like that.
And I'll
I'm,
tell you this: in over 26 years and 27 books, no one has. People will say, "Am I in the book?" And yeah, there'll be a character that is
Mhm.
loosely based, or whatever. Nobody has ever found themselves. They always assume that they're the bad guy. They always assume that they're the good looking one or the bad looking one, or whatever the case may be. Nobody has ever had where I say, well, who do you think you are? And they say, Charlie. I said, no, no, you're wrong. And
Like,
they
no,
said, well, which one am I? And I said, I'm not going to tell you.
they have to figure it out. That's their mystery. Oh, that's so funny. Speaking of not necessarily bad guys, but we do have another reader question. Who is your favorite literary villain? There's some really good ones. I'm very curious about this answer.
Wow. Favorite literary
Tough
villain.
one.
Um, well, Hannibal Lecter's too easy, because so who would it be? The Devil in the White City guy, whose name I can't come up with,
Yeah.
was kind of brilliant.
Hmm.
Um, I like oh To Kill a Mockingbird, that nasty farmer. Uh, uh,
Yes.
not that there's a lot of empathy for him, but he was so brilliantly Bob Buell. He was so brilliantly drawn in the book and also
Hmm.
in the movie that I admired the skill. The trick of doing a good bad guy, by the way, is to
Hmm.
understand that the bad guy thinks he's a good guy and he acts
Yes.
accordingly. Uh,
Yeah.
but I guess that's a very interesting question. I'm not paying good service to it because nothing's really popping
It's
up.
a tough question. I know I've been thinking about like who. I think mine, I had to think about it. I weirdly love, not weirdly, but I do find villains very interesting because, like you said, they usually think they have a like they think they're right in some way. I think Cersei I didn't read the whole series, but I watched the show, but Game of Thrones. So I think she might be my favorite.
Okay,
Like,
Bill Sykes from Oliver Twist, another one.
that's a good one. I think, yeah, that's a good one. Nice. All right. And then, so we've talked about Lethal Game, but can you tell us like what inspired you to write the series, and like how did you come up with Jonathan Grave from like the very beginning?
Well, back in 2006, Kensington published my nonfiction book called 6 Minutes to Freedom, which is a story about the rescue of Kurt Muse, who was the co-author on the book. And it was a Delta Force operation that went very, very well. And at the time, as far as I know, it was the only book that Delta had ever cooperated in, if there's a sentence. And so I had all this research, and the book was done. And I thought, these are such intriguing people. The high-end special ops guys are not the snake-eating bad guys that they're often portrayed to be. They're nice, gentlemen who also are capable of this unspeakable violence. So I just got the idea for Jonathan Grave playing the trade that he did for Uncle Sam, but doing it for civilians.
Nice. All right. Then how would you define thriller?
Oh, wow. This is the stuff of mystery conferences the world over. I think what a mystery is a whodunit. Who is the bad guy? I think a thriller, at least my types of thrillers, everybody knows who the bad guy is fairly early on in most stories, not always, but in most stories. What drives a thriller is how are the good guys going to get away, or how are the good guys going to stop the bad guy? So there's more of a kinetic force to a thriller, as I see it, than there is to like a mystery. And in a thriller, there's no room for a romance.
Gotcha. No room. I was going to be kind of one of our other questions was, if you weren't writing thrillers, what would you write? And we were hoping it'd be amazing if it was romance. So I was gonna.
Actually, I have an idea. I don't know if I'm ever going to get to it because I'm getting lazy as I get older. But I've got a Christmas series in my head that I would love to write.
Nice.
The problem is, and I don't see it as a YA series. I see it as an adult market series, I don't mean adult market as in,
Yeah.
I've only been doing this for a few decades. I don't really understand the terms I'm supposed to use.
Yeah, I gotcha. No worries. But that'll be a lot of fun. I would love to read that. Nice. So for the writing process, have you ever accidentally backed yourself into a corner writing that you found was like unsolvable, or like how do you work through any like writer's block?
Well, writer's block, there's two things actually. Address the writer's block first. If I get into a corner where things just aren't happening, I leave the keyboard and I pick up a fountain pen and a stack of papers, a little book actually, and start writing by longhand. And I don't understand why, but for whatever reason, that's like it unlocks a different part of my brain and I can get the story back on track. And then I type it. So I get an automatic second draft. Yeah. As far as getting myself into a corner, every single book, it happens. I'm not an outlier. So I have a premise and I start, and because I'm always really tight on my deadlines, I don't have the luxury of going back and changing my mind and rewriting the last 75 pages. So, I kind of get in that place. Jonathan Grave is a problem solver. Solve the freaking problem and make it work. And more times than not, actually, I talk about this with my wife. Every single book this happens, and every single time, I've already planted the seed I need to make the story work. I just didn't know it yet. I'm telling you, psychosis if you don't get paid.
Yeah, like in your subconscious, but that's always nice. I think that's one of my favorite things about reading books is like kind of going back and seeing where the point happens and you're like, oh, then everything clicks in it. So it'd be interesting to be part of the writing process for that. What is your favorite part of the writing process, would you say?
Typing the end.
Yes.
knowing that somehow or other I did it again, and
Yes.
it's working. Yes.
Like, perfect. Oh, that's a very good answer. I love it. And what do you love or enjoy most about writing thrillers? Would you say, is it the problem solving or the keeping readers on their toes?
At one level, I think it's all I know. I don't read. I have done nonfiction. That's really hard. I'm not doing that
Yeah.
again. Romances. Love the folks who write them. It's just it doesn't do it for me.
Yeah.
Mysteries. My mind doesn't. The whole MacGuffin and red herring stuff. Red herring, not MacGuffin. Dropping the clues and all of that. That's just not how my mind works. So I think I'm just hardwired to do thrillers.
Nice. Yeah. Well, that's nice. I like that. All right. So let's see. What would you say is, like, if you suddenly found yourself in the heart of your book, what would you be doing?
I don't think I understand.
So, like, if you were, like, who would you be in the book, do you think, if you're, like, dropped into the series?
Oh, who do I think I am, or who do I want to be? In reality, I'm the guy that's being rescued and cowering in the corner screaming for help. But who I want to be is
who would you
the
like
guy,
to
kicking the door and making the rescue.
Nice. Yeah. I also think I would be. I'm like, I think I'm very brave, and or like, I don't think we are, but there's moments like, oh yeah, that would be very intense situations to be in. So, and then, do you have a go-to writing snack? That's very sorry.
Writing
snack.
Snack?
Mm-hmm. Yes, snack.
I can't write and eat at the same time. I don't have enough fingers.
Gotcha, that makes sense.
No, it's mealtime is mealtime. I'm addicted to sparkling water.
Gotcha.
During the writing day, the evening libations are also clear, but of a different sort. But no, I don't. I led such a structured corporate life early on, where I could wear any color blue or gray suit I wanted with any color blue or white shirt and Republican tie that I wanted. So that's kind of how I cut my teeth in business. So I go to my office, always get dressed, go to the office, you work, and then if it's lunchtime, I go and I have lunch, and then I come back to my office. And I try not to combine those activities.
That makes sense. Like, it's a good defined time. I understand. That's kind of how I am too. I like the separation. We do have a reader that's would like to know more about the Victoria Emerson books. So how does your writing approach change when between the two characters, between Victoria and Jonathan?
Well, what Victoria and Jonathan have in common, as the primary characters, is a very strong sense of justice and right and wrong. And in Victoria's case, she is the default leader after a nuclear holocaust and Armageddon hits. And the book is about, the series is about, it's a 3-book series so far, is while millions of people, perhaps billions of people, nobody knows, were killed in this nuclear war, that means that hundreds of millions or billions of people are still alive. And I came at this from the perspective of, the prepping community. I have my own little wooded compound here, so I kind of fall on that spectrum. But what we hear about is protecting mine, making sure that you've got enough food for your family and that you've got all, and that's great. But society has to start up again. And so now what? So Victoria is a prepper, and she's also a congresswoman from West Virginia. And she is the leader who people turn to kind of bring society back together. And it's a society that's very violent. People are feral. We saw what happened. People were killing each other over toilet paper in the early days of COVID. Can you imagine what it would be like if it was the last bit of heart medicine, or the chemotherapy drug, or I mean, life would get really tough, and it takes a strong leader to bring order to that chaos, and that's what Victoria does.
Nice. And then, yeah, that's a really great. I love that because it just got to be very interesting writing going between the two series. So then, and we can do this for Victoria as well. I mean, we kind of went over their characters, but how would you describe Jonathan in 3 words? And then how would you describe Victoria in 3 words?
It's more than 3 words, but it's short, and it would go for both of them. The person I would hope to be under those circumstances.
It's a very good answer. I like that a lot. Yeah, I would hope to be able, like Victoria, I'd hope to be her in any kind of situation like that. And then, so is there any advice that you would love to give yourself, or to give to like your younger writing self, or anything you wish you'd known at the time when you're starting out?
Yeah, relax and have fun with it. Don't listen to one professor in particular. And stay at it. If you want, it's like writing is a craft, and like any other craft, if you walk away from it, the craft is going to get stale. If you stay with it, you'll sharpen your skills, and throw in a little bit of talent, which is a hard word to inflict on oneself. And it'll happen. It's about telling. People always want to hear stories about interesting people doing interesting things in interesting places in interesting ways.
That's a good answer. I like that. And then, is that the same kind of advice you'd give to any young writers or people starting off with writing?
Yeah, well, for others, I would say, and this didn't apply to me so much because I never, I'm not a give up kind of person. Never have been. I get distracted, shiny thing, squirrel. But there are 1,000. It depends on how old the young people are in this. There's 1,000 reasons why no one should enter the entertainment business, whether it's writing or acting or singing or dancing or whatever, because failure is rampant. Rejection is king. It happens over and over again. It happens to everybody that's involved. And the bit of advice that I want to give to people, I'm looking at you, whoever you are, you ambitious young writer out there. Just because people say you're done, just because people say your career is over or that you'll never work, as long as you keep answering the bell, as long as you keep going, you're still in the game with every bit as much likelihood of being published as anybody else. So again, given that the talent is there, what you need to have is the desire. So failure cannot be inflicted upon you. You have to declare your own failure. Unless and until you do that, you're still in the game.
That's very good advice. Yeah, that's nice. I like that. That's good advice. And then, yeah, I can't imagine, like, it'd be very tough. Like, I think about Stephen King a lot when it comes to like the writing process. I think he had the wall of like rejection letters or something like that. That was his like motivation, if I remember correctly. It's been a while since I read about it, but I always found that very interesting. He's just like, no, very determined to do this. So for the writing process, then, how would you say for you, how do you keep pace with the novel when you're crafting? I know you said you're not much of you don't really do outlining, but how would you say you keep the pace of the novel?
Well, that's the stuff. Every writing session for me starts with rewriting what I wrote in the previous session.
Sorry.
So every day is a new edit. So I can, pacing per se, it's the pulse of the book, and I don't know. I could give like a writing school answer, but I never went to writing school, so I don't know. I think that's where the instinct comes in. This isn't going fast enough, or it's going too fast, or whoa, I would have just confused people there. I need to go and fix that. it's like building anything, you know,
Mhm.
if what you're building a house or you're building a birdhouse or whatever, if the joints don't come together well, you got to fix it. And
Mhm.
over time, it becomes easier to fix because you've done it so many times before. But early on, you know, that birdhouse is going to be crooked and things aren't going to look all that well, but it'll look something like a birdhouse. And
That's
then you
true.
go and build the next one.
Then you just, yeah, it's a really great, I like that a lot. It's very good advice. And just kind of like, yeah, it'll be a birdhouse. Maybe it's not the birdhouse you were thinking it would be, but it'll still be a birdhouse. Yeah, so I think that is our time. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for all the readers, for all your questions. There were some I know I didn't get to. But yeah, so thanks everybody. And then, all right, have a great rest of your night.
See ya.